The National News Desk. Locally covered, nationally connected.
This is a very special event. They had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before.
We're on the cusp of true peace in the Middle East, really for the first time in my lifetime. Certainly, these 20 hostages are going to come home to their families.
Working with President Trump on this, his commitment to seeing peace, to seeing the hostages return home, to seeing Israel secure and safe, and to seeing the entire Middle East stable and thriving is unmatched.
I think he should get a lot of credit. I mean, this was his deal. He worked this out.
The war is over, okay? You understand that?
Breaking as we come on the air, celebrations erupting across Israel as freed hostages are now home with their families. President Trump arriving in Israel overnight to personally secure the groundbreaking peace deal that may have changed the course of history in the region for decades to come. And thank you for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is October 13th, Columbus Day here in America. And right now, President Trump getting ready to deliver remarks to the Israeli parliament at the Knesset in Israel after the release of all living hostages from Hamas captivity overnight. He will be awarded the Presidential Medal of Honor, which is Israel's highest civilian honor. Mark Boyle joining us now from the live desk with the breaking details. And Mark, the day really just getting started for the president. He's got a lot on his agenda.
A big day ahead for the president, the world, the nation, of course. Jan, the president touching down in Tel Aviv around 2:30 this morning while you were sleeping. A live picture behind me. You see the president right there on the left side. He has not spoken yet. As soon as he does, we will bring that to you in its entirety here. A big day that is history in the making as you wake up this morning. He is there to oversee the exchange of hostages and prisoners between Israel and Hamas. As we take this live picture full, the president is addressing and set to address
for everything that you have done
Israel
to
right
bring
now.
about
Let's
this
listen
day.
in for a moment.
Ambassador of the United States to Israel, my dear friend and my absolute favorite rock star, Mike Huckabee. Do we have Janet? I don't see Janet.
Janet's not in.
Janet's not here. Okay. שגריר ישראל בארצות הברית, יחיאל לייטר.
All right, so they are going through this big introduction list right now. As soon as President Trump speaks, we will go back to that live, as mentioned here. Now, meantime, how did we get here? Well, in the past hour, he has met with families of the hostages right now. 20 hostages have been released. Video coming out of Gaza this morning. There it is. I mean, this is just, it really gives you the chills to watch. This was the exact moment those hostages that were put into custody of the Red Cross were brought across the border there, released to the IDF, and showing that moment families have been waiting for. Many thought would never happen. They were then handed over to Israeli military, where they're finally reunited with their families. That emotional celebration all caught on camera. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was on the ground in Tel Aviv to meet the president as he stepped off Air Force One. After a quick hello, Trump went to, with Netanyahu, to other leaders there in the Knesset. That's where he signed the guest book. You're watching that video right now. All of this is new since you went to sleep this morning and breaking as we come on the air right now. So again, standing by for the president to begin speaking with leaders there in Israel. Full live coverage for you coming up later this morning. Standing by for that and more ceremonies coming up this morning at the live desk and throughout the morning on our website, thenationaldesk.com.
All right, Mark, thank you. Israeli hospitals are preparing to treat those freed hostages as the UN rushes aid into Gaza. The National News Desk's Angela Brown is looking into this massive effort. Angela?
Massive effort, you're right, on two fronts. In Israel, the focus now turns to healing. Medical teams helping hostages returning home, broken but alive. In Gaza, you have these aid convoys are on standby, trying to restore some hope to families who have lost nearly everything. Now, the health ministry director says that Israel's entire health system has mobilized to receive the with 20 living hostages being freed from Gaza, as well as the bodies of deceased hostages to be returned to the country. Now, we don't know what treatment these hostages will need or what they will face, but past reporting indicates that some hostages may require immediate intensive care, reconstructive surgery, or even long-term rehab. Now, medical teams are on alert, trauma units expanded, and protocols for custody handovers have apparently been laid out. Hospitals across Israel are gearing up to handle complex and, as I mentioned, urgent care, from malnutrition to severe psychological trauma, while at the same time, you're going to see rebuilding in Gaza right here. We have all seen the video that you're looking at right here in Gaza. Homes, businesses, lives destroyed by war. But the first mission is just simply getting people fed. The United Nations plans to ramp up humanitarian aid in Gaza for Palestinians during the first 60 days of this ceasefire and scale up food aid across Gaza to reach 2.1 million people, including 500,000 in need of nutritional support. That includes some 400 trucks from Egypt that apparently on Sunday had to undergo Israeli inspection before being allowed into the Strip. The UN also has 170,000 metric tons of food, medicine, life support supplies already staged and ready to deliver into Gaza. The UN also wants to open up temporary schools for around 700,000 Palestinian kids who were not able to go to school so they can learn. Now, while the hostages will be reunited with their families, that's simply the next step. After over 700 days in captivity, they'll be living with emotional scars, of course, that may never heal.
All right, Angela, thank you. President Trump also working hard to end the war between Russia and Ukraine with a strong warning to Russia this morning.
I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about tomahawks. Do they want to have tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I think I might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness. I told that to President Zelensky.
Are you saying that you will speak to Putin first about tomahawks?
I might talk to him. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send them tomahawks. I may say that.
Yesterday, President Trump confirmed he spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky to discuss the possibility of providing Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles. This comes after Russian missiles targeted Ukraine's power grid, causing widespread outages. And First Lady Melania Trump just revealed she's had an open line of communication with Russian President Vladimir Putin to reunify Ukrainian children with their families. She has been privately working with Russian officials for months to help families that were separated during the war.
My representative has been working directly with President Putin's team to ensure the safe reunification of children with their families between Russia and Ukraine.
After her letter to Putin in August, the First Lady revealed 8 children have been returned so far. More than 19,000 were deported or transported to Russia during the war.
7 minutes past the hour this morning here on a Monday, a live look for you over Ocean City, Maryland. We're up and down the East Coast. It is going to be another soggy day, still dealing with that severe weather, that nor'easter, causing so many issues for so many up and down the East Coast. Take a look at some of this video we're seeing here. This coming in, this is from Avalon, New Jersey. Gives you an idea of what it was like. Many of these roads turned into rivers. If folks did not evacuate their homes as the storm moved in, many were stuck inside because their cars just weren't high enough to get out of that area within the past 24 to 48 hours. The storm ended up bringing out the annual, or raining out really, the annual car show and other events around the city that normally attracts thousands of customers and visitors each year.
We came down for the car show, and we're not leaving to head back until tomorrow.
It was supposed to be today, but it ended yesterday because of the storm coming in.
Now, the flooding and the rain, it didn't turn out to be a huge factor for all the states, all the cities up and down the East Coast. But here's the big story of this right now. It is the top wind speeds. In New Jersey, top winds clocking in at 60 miles an hour. Maryland Beaches saw about 50 miles an hour. And you see down towards Baltimore 30. And when you talk about travel, planes cannot touch down and land safely with winds really over 30 miles per hour or so. And if they do, they significantly slow down. So the wind speeds was a huge factor in travel over the past 24 hours or so. And you can see where things stand this morning. All that moisture now well above Philadelphia, moving into New York, up to Connecticut and the Boston area. Just really slowed this morning. A live look for you again, Ocean City, Maryland this morning as that storm continues to churn away. Jan will track that for you here at the live desk.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. In the ongoing effort to stop the flow of deadly drugs into the U.S., Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced the Department of War is establishing a new counter-narcotic Narcotics Joint Task Force in the Caribbean Sea. In a post on X, he wrote, the task force's mission would be to crush the cartel, stop the poison, and keep America safe. The message is clear. If you traffic drugs toward our shores, we will stop you cold. The legal battle continues over President Trump's efforts, meantime, to support immigration enforcement with National Guard members as ICE agents face growing attacks and intimidation from activists and agitators. National News Desk's Christine Frizzell has more.
The fight in Chicago taking place as much in the courts as on the streets. A federal appeals court Saturday issuing this one-page order granting the Trump administration's request for the federalization of the National Guard, but denying their deployment to the streets of Chicago.
There are federalized troops that have been sent here from Texas. They are in a federal facility. They're not allowed to come onto the streets of Chicago or our suburbs or anywhere in Illinois, according to the determination of the judge.
Governor J.B. Pritzker insisting there is no emergency in his city that warrants sending military troops to assist, making light of it on late night.
This is J.B. Pritzker reporting from war-torn Chicago. As you can see, there's utter mayhem and chaos on the ground. It's quite disturbing. The Milwaukee Brewers have come in to attack our Chicago Cubs. We've seen people being forced to eat hot dogs with ketchup on them.
It's disgusting to have an elected official, poke fun at the fact that my officers, the brave men and women of ICE who are out there every day, who had bounties on their heads in Chicago, in his city, right, where people were actually calling for the kidnapping and death of ICE agents and Border Patrol agents.
Clashes have continued in Portland, Oregon as well. Top officials raising concerns about calls by some protesters to point lasers at federal helicopters. The FBI posting this reminder that aiming or pointing a laser at aircraft is a federal crime. The Trump administration blaming crime and immigration policies, they say, have failed to keep the city safe.
I think that Governor Pritzker has allowed a lot of people to be killed in the city of Chicago and elsewhere, George. I think that it's disgraceful, and I think that he absolutely should suffer some consequences for the fact that there are thousands of innocent Chicagoans who are dead because he failed to do his job.
President Trump is apparently still weighing using the Insurrection Act to bolster his case that military troops can be sent into cities, especially those run by Democrats. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Department of Homeland Security also calling out Governor Pritzker for pushing a false claim that agents were targeting children.
J.B. Pritzker was pushing a truly embarrassing hoax based on a viral TikTok video. Pritzker claimed that children were being zip-tied by ICE. Children were never zip-tied. This screenshot was from a parody video. The officer in the video was the father of the toddler seen in the image.
DHS said immigration agents base arrests solely on people in the U.S. illegally. Still ahead this morning, historic homecoming, more breaking news coverage on the Israeli hostages being freed by Hamas, plus the latest on President Trump's trip in the Middle East.
And we are continuing to follow that breaking news out of the Middle East this morning. Jan, live pictures coming in behind us. The president has not spoken yet. He will any moment as he addresses lawmakers. We're standing by as the release of the living Israeli hostages underway as you wake up right now. We are back with breaking news right after this. This morning, a community in Tennessee is in mourning after a deadly explosion at an explosives factory, and a blast killed at least 16 people. Happened on Friday in McEwen, which is about an hour outside of Nashville. Over the weekend, this small community held a vigil for the victims and their families.
In the days to come, there's going to be a lot of grief. The true strength of our county, and I've always said it since day one, is our people.
And we want to show you what it looked like from above. You can see there is nothing left. That explosion was massive and took out everything in the area. According to detectives, they're still trying to determine what triggered that blast. The plant, owned by Accurate Energetic Systems, supplies and researches explosives for the military. Now, today, the FBI is performing forensic analysis there at the scene, trying to identify the remains of the victims and return them to their families. And there's been issues at that plant before. A similar explosion happened at the same location, that same plant, more than a decade ago. That one has not, this one obviously not nearly as severe. It was just one person dead then. This one much different. We're tracking that for you this morning, Jan, right here at the live desk.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Looking ahead right now, after President Trump does return from the Middle East, he's set to present a major honor to Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk. The president will recognize Charlie with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in a ceremony at the White House tomorrow on what would have been Charlie's 32nd birthday. Many of his friends and family, including his widow, Erica, plan to be there. Meantime, the Justice Department is cracking down on political violence, even arresting a suspect over a threat that was made to a friend of Charlie Kirk's. The National News Desk's Taylor Murray has more.
Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing on Friday charges against a man suspected of threatening to kill conservative political commentator Benny Johnson.
We've been living through a horrific cycle of political violence in this country.
Bondi said Johnson was targeted for his conservative political views, referencing last month's assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk.
Just days after Charlie's assassination, Benny received a letter at his home. The author of this letter made it very clear that he hated Benny because of his views, and he wanted Benny dead.
Friday's announcement comes days after the arrest of a man ahead of a mass at Washington's St. Matthew's Cathedral to be attended by the Supreme Court justices. He was armed with 200 explosives and a notebook, including expressions of animosity towards the justices.
Unfortunately, it's a continuation of a string of violence that has just kind of become normalized.
That string of political violence includes last year's assassination attempts on President Trump, April's arson at Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence, and the assassination of a Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband in June. The issue of political violence is front and center in Virginia, where the Democratic candidate for Attorney General is facing calls to resign following the release of violent text messages.
The Washington Post confirms Jay Jones sent texts that imagined shooting the Republican Speaker of the House.
Now the Democratic frontrunner in the governor's race, Abigail Spanberger, is taking the heat for not telling Jones to end his campaign.
He has said that he wants to murder his political opponent, and not only that, but his political opponent's children.
The voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
A Harvard Capps Harris poll released this week shows that 72% of voters say political rhetoric is leading to violence, and 64% believe it's social media that's encouraging political violence. I'm Taylor Murray reporting.
The U.S. partnership with Qatar played a crucial role in getting the Gaza peace deal over the finish line. In a show of appreciation, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced an agreement for Qatari Air Force pilots to train with American military personnel at a U.S. Air Force base in Idaho. The National News Desk's Jeff Harris has more.
Over the last few months, the Trump administration and Qatar have worked to strengthen its alliance, with multiple deals being made. As that partnership grew, the U.S. then asked Qatar to help mediate the Gaza deal in exchange for security guarantees. On Friday, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announcing the U.S. will allow Qatar to build an Air Force facility at Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho, hosting Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots who will train alongside U.S. troops.
Pilots to enhance our combined training, increase lethality, interoperability. It's just another example of our partnership.
During the announcement, Hegseth also praising Qatar for playing a substantial role in the talks that led to the Gaza peace deal between Israel and Hamas.
What we believe will be a lasting peace in Gaza, and Qatar played a substantial role from the beginning, working with our folks to ensure that came about. So I want to thank you.
This new arrangement, just the latest in a series of actions strengthening the alliance between the two countries, including Qatar hosting the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East, plus President Trump's September executive order pledging to defend Qatar. Administration officials actively working to forge that alliance. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Envoy Jared Kushner, both working closely with Qatari and Israeli officials to mediate a peace deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanking them Thursday as they sat beside him.
We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner.
Also, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who back in May went with the president to the Middle East, where Qatar finalized billions in economic agreements with the U.S., including $96 billion for Boeing jets and over $40 billion for defense systems.
We're going to help each other. The United States is in a very strong position militarily. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world.
Now, while no country has its own independent military bases in the United States, some foreign military are granted facilities to support their forces. Aside from Qatar, Singapore is also stationed at the same base in Idaho. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
21 minutes past the hour. You wake up this morning. We are continuing to follow live breaking news out of Israel. You're seeing the president there and other Israeli lawmakers as the transfer of all the living hostages is underway. They have been released this morning. A historic moment. We are standing by for the president to speak. We'll bring that to you live as it happens. Our breaking news continues right here, right after this. Police in St. Helena Island, South Carolina say 4 people are dead and at least 20 others hurt after a shooting on Sunday. This happened at a crowded bar. This is some of the video from the scene here behind me. Investigators have not made any arrests in this case this morning, and there's no indication that this shooting was random or targeted. So that's one of the big questions, and that's why so many of the community are upset here. The first call came in around 1 o'clock in the morning saying shots have been fired. The police got to the scene. They say hundreds of people were running away from that bar to get to safety. This morning, 4 people still being treated. They are in critical condition. Their names have not been released.
All right, Mark, thank you. Developing this morning, critics are raising concerns about the mail-in ballots for California's redistricting proposal. Voters in California noticed holes in the front of their mail-in envelopes. Once the ballot is folded and placed in the envelope, those holes allow the vote inside to be visible, revealing whether they voted for or against the redistricting measure. Well, this exposure raises concerns. The ballots could be trashed before they're counted if someone handling them along the way doesn't agree with the vote. If the measure passes, 5 California U.S. House seats could shift to be more favorable to Democrats in next year's midterm elections. Still to come, hostages returning home. All living hostages have now been released by Hamas as President Trump arrives in the Middle East for the historic peace signing deal. Plus, flight disruptions, airlines warning customers of flight delays as airports deal with a shortage of air traffic controllers. First, here's a look at America's news and weather now, where you live on this Columbus Day. Breaking right now on the national news desk. America's News Now. 20 Israeli hostages almost home after being released as part of President Trump's landmark peace agreement in the Middle East. Right now, President Trump is there after meeting with their families and getting ready to deliver a historic address to the Israeli parliament, changing the tone for the future of the Middle East. Thanks for joining us. You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is Monday, October 13th, also Columbus Day. And right now, Trump is in the Knesset getting ready to deliver remarks to the Israeli government. Overnight, all 20 of the hostages were released after being held for more than 2 years in Hamas captivity. It is all part of the president's historic Middle East peace agreement that's expected to have a massive impact on that region with wide-ranging implications, perhaps even peace talks with Iran. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with the very latest for us right now. A very busy morning so far for the president.
And the president has been key, Jan, and getting this done here this morning. Right now, the president is in Israel, where he is set to address Israeli lawmakers, leaders there, before heading to Egypt to oversee the next phase of the peace deal with other world leaders. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking now. Let's listen in here for just a moment.
A proposal that ends the war by achieving all our objectives. A proposal that opens the door to an historic expansion of peace in our region and beyond our region. Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace. We've done it before. We've done it before in the Abraham Accords, and we'll do it again. Mr. President, today the Jewish calendar marks the end of 2 years of war. That war began on October 7th, on the Jewish festival of Simchat Torah. You always tell me, and you tell the world, remember October 7th. Mr. President, we remember. We remember the thousands of Hamas terrorists who stormed into our towns and kibbutzim. We remember the 1,200 people Hamas savagely slaughtered in cold blood, including dozens and dozens of Americans. We remember entire families burnt alive as they embraced each other. We remember the beautiful young Israelis brutally gunned down at the Nova Music Festival. We remember the hundreds of our citizens who were dragged into the dungeons of Gaza, including 12 Americans, men and women, young and old, babies and elderly Holocaust survivors. My friends, Mr. President, Donald, these monsters take babies as hostages. In response to this barbaric attack on October 7th, Israel did what it had to do. With indomitable courage, we set out to defend our people, to defeat our enemies, and to release our hostages. Our heroic soldiers fought like lions. They fought on the front lines of civilization and barbarism. Israel achieved amazing victories over Hamas and the entire Iran terror axis. Sinwar, Dev, Hania, Nasrallah, Assad, they're all gone. Iran's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile program, with your enormous help, Mr. President, rolled back. Half the Houthi leadership wiped out. But the price of this victory, the price of these victories, has been heavy. Nearly 2,000 of Israel's finest were lost, nearly half in battle. They left behind parents, spouses, siblings, and children. Their love and laughter, their promise and potential were lost forever. To the families of our fallen fighters, many of them are here, I say, I know the depth of your pain. I know the inconsolable grief that will accompany you for the rest of your lives. The State of Israel bows its head in eternal gratitude to our fallen heroes. Because of these heroes, our nation will survive. Because of these heroes, our nations will thrive. And because of these heroes, our nation will have peace. Mr. President, thousands of our brave soldiers were also wounded, suffering terrible blows to body and soul. Brave soldiers like Ari Spitz. Ari is an American. Ari is an American Israeli who was injured Ari is an American Israeli who was injured in Gaza while searching for Hamas terrorists and weapons. 2 of Ari's comrades were killed in this action and 10 were injured. Ari was presumed dead, but made a miraculous recovery despite losing 3 limbs. Ari, stand up for a minute alone. Stand up. There you go. There. Ari, you are the spirit of Joshua. You are the spirit of David. You are the spirit of the Maccabees. You are the spirit of Israel. I salute you. We all salute you. Sabine Tassa of Kibbutz Netiv HaAsara is watching us today from the Israeli consulate in Los Angeles. Sabine lost her husband and her oldest son on October 7th. She is the mother of 3 other boys. 2 of them, Koren and Shai, witnessed their father jump on a Hamas grenade to save his 2 sons. We all saw the film of those 2 boys crying out in pain, "Father is dead. Why? Why did God save me?" Mr. President, my friend Donald, I've seen some very tough things in my life, but I couldn't bring myself to watch those boys suffering again. So I didn't see this film except once. Yet Sabine, their mother, has had the strength and fortitude to show this film across the world. And my wife Sarah and I asked her, "Sabine, how do you do it? Why do you do it?" And she answered, "I do it to show the entire world the monsters Israel is fighting and the justice of our cause." This is what she's doing once again in Los Angeles. Sabine, you can hear me now, so I want to tell you on behalf of all of us, you embody the spirit of our biblical heroines, Deborah, Ruth, and Esther. You too are the spirit of Israel, and we all salute you. Mr. President, you asked me on our many conversations during the 12-day war with Iran, you asked me, how are the people holding up? And I said to you, our people are strong. Israelis are a nation of lions with unlimited resolve to defend our country and secure our future. The people give strength to our soldiers, and the people give strength to me and to my colleagues. The Jewish people have risen from the ashes time and again, but when we formed the State of Israel and the Army of Israel, we pledged never again would be defenseless against our enemies. And that resolute strength not only assures our survival, it assures our future, it assures peace. We have paid a high price for this war, but our enemies now understand just how powerful and just how determined Israel is. They understand that attacking Israel on October 7th was a catastrophic mistake. They understand that Israel is strong and that Israel is here to stay. And this, Mr. President, is the indispensable foundation of peace. Peace through strength. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a momentous day, a day of great joy as the remaining hostages come home. My wife Sarah and I have met with the hostage families many times. There were no words to describe their agony, only tears of bottomless sorrow and unimaginable pain. At the beginning of the war, I promised to bring all the hostages home. Today, with the indispensable help, the determined and focused help, the unremitting help of President Trump and his team, and with the incredible sacrifice and courage of the soldiers of Israel, we are fulfilling that promise. It has been a long journey to get here. In the first week of the war, our brave soldiers put military pressure on Hamas, and the international community put diplomatic pressure on them. This enabled us to secure the release of over 100 hostages. In heroic rescue attempts behind enemy lines, Israel's special forces rescued 8 live hostages and brought back the remains of dozens more. But as time went on, we all know what happened. The diplomatic pressure was turned on its head. More and more governments bought into Hamas's false propaganda. More and more governments succumbed to anti-Semitic mobs in their own countries. They just turned on Israel. They called for us to surrender to Hamas demands, just leave Gaza immediately, they said, end the war without committing to disarm Hamas, without committing to demilitarize Gaza. Had Israel succumbed to those demands, not only would Sinwar, Nasrallah, Assad, and Iran's missile and nuclear program remain intact. Not only that, because in no time, the Hamas killers would be back on the border fence, ready to repeat the horrors of October 7th again and again, as they vowed to do. But just at that point of maximum pressure on Israel, a man named Donald J. Trump was elected President of the United States. And ladies and gentlemen, overnight, everything changed. Everything.
We felt it right here.
Mr. President, thanks to your unequivocal backing of Israel, we secured a second hostage deal within weeks of your election. And in the months that followed, we worked closely together to forge a path to bring the remaining hostages home and end the war. End the war in a way that ensures the disarming of Hamas, the demilitarization of Gaza, and that Gaza would never again pose a threat to Israel. 2 months ago, You fully backed my decision to send the IDF into the last Hamas stronghold in Gaza City. You shared my view that this military pressure would help free the hostages. And despite all the criticism, all the naysayers, we were right. Hamas caved in. And 2 weeks ago, you succeeded in doing something miraculous. You succeeded in doing something that no one believed was possible. You brought most of the Arab world, you brought most of the world behind your proposal to free the hostages and end the war. I want to thank Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and Ron Dermer for their great contribution to this effort. And I want to thank our negotiating team. I believe that the close cooperation between the two of us, between our two nations, combining Israel's military pressure and President Trump's unmatched global leadership. I have to tell you, I've seen a lot of American presidents. I've seen them all in the time that I've been here, and I've been here quite a lot of time. I've never seen anyone move the world so quickly, so decisively, so resolutely as our friend President Donald J. Trump. With our military pressure and President Trump's global leadership, we achieved this historic moment. It's a moment of indescribable joy as our nation embraces our sons who are coming home. Mr. President, this week, Jews around the world are going to read the book of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, in the Bible. The Bible has many miraculous moments. One of them was your decision to bomb Fordo. I think it was a pivot of history because it wasn't meant only to bomb Fordo. That action and your previous action of taking out Qasem Soleimani, the architect of death, I think that changed the balance of power in the world. You brought America back again to the driver's seat. Now, I said that we're going to read this week the book of Ecclesiastes. It's not a book of action. It's a book of meditations, of thought, a perspective on life and on death. And in this book, we read the immortal words of King Solomon. To everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. Et milchama ve'et shalom. A time for peace and a time for war. The last 2 years have been a time of war. The coming years will hopefully be a time for peace. Peace inside Israel and peace outside Israel.
And you heard the Prime Minister say it. This was a momentous day in world history. In case you're just joining us this morning, all 20 remaining living hostages have been released by Hamas. Those 20 driven to the border with Israel, handed over to the IDF. We are standing by for the president to speak. We will bring that to you live as it happens. We are up against a hard break right now. So more breaking news coming up for you in just a moment and online anytime at thenationaldesk.com.
The National News Desk. Locally covered, nationally connected.
This is a very special event. They had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before.
We're on the cusp of true peace in the Middle East, really for the first time in my lifetime. Certainly, these 20 hostages are going to come home to their families.
Working with President Trump on this, his commitment to seeing peace, to seeing the hostages return home, to seeing Israel secure and safe, and to seeing the entire Middle East stable and thriving is unmatched.
I think he should get a lot of credit. I mean, this was his deal. He worked this out.
The war is over, okay? You understand that?
Breaking as we come on the air, celebrations erupting all across Israel as freed hostages are now headed home. President Trump speaking to the Israeli parliament moments from now. He arrived there overnight to personally secure the groundbreaking peace deal that may have changed the course of history in the region for decades to come. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is October 13th. It is Columbus Day here in America. And right now, President Trump is getting ready to deliver remarks to the Israeli parliament at the Knesset in Israel after the release of all living hostages from Hamas captivity happened overnight. He's also going to be awarded the Presidential Medal of Honor, which is Israel's highest civilian honor. Mark Boyle joining us now from the live desk with some of the breaking details. We just heard from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu there from in front of that Israeli parliament as he was speaking, and the president is also getting ready to speak as well.
We're standing by for the president. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying with the president next to him he has been and will be, in his mind, one of the most effective presidents in history, Jan. A very busy day ahead for President Trump as we look at some of the live pictures. Lawmakers right now speaking. The president on the right side there as soon as he steps up and starts speaking about this momentous and historic day, one many didn't think would happen. We will bring that to you live. The president touching down in Tel Aviv around 2:30 this morning while you were asleep to oversee the exchange of hostages and the prisoners between Israel and Hamas. We did hear from the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and as we mentioned, we're standing by for President Trump. In the past hour, he has met with families of the hostages. Right now, all 20 hostages have been released. That is the big breaking news and the headline and the brand new video as you wake up and watch this as we've been watching it this morning. Inside these Red Cross vehicles crossing the border right here from Gaza into Israel. Those are the hostages. Some never thought they would see their family members again, living in tunnels, little air, little food for about 2 years, of course, following what happened on October 7th. Brand new video continues to come in, and we'll share that with you as well as they drive through the streets right here to meet with medical personnel to check on them before they're handed over to their families. Now they have been again in captivity for about 2 years. That emotional celebration all caught on camera. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was on the ground in Tel Aviv to greet the president as he stepped off Air Force One here just a few hours ago. After a quick hello, they then went to the Knesset there where he signed the guest book. You're watching the video there right now. Standing by for the president to speak with lawmakers. We'll carry that live for you right here this morning at the live desk and anytime on our website, thenationaldesk.com.
All right, Mark, thanks so much. Israeli hospitals are preparing to treat those freed hostages as the UN rushes aid into Gaza. The National News Desk's Angela Brown is looking into this massive effort currently underway. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Jan. Yeah, in Israel, the focus now turns to healing. Medical teams helping hostages returning home broken but alive. In Gaza, aid convoys are on standby, trying to restore some hope to families who lost nearly everything. Now, the health ministry director says that Israel's entire health system has mobilized to receive 20 living hostages being, of course, freed from Gaza, as well as the bodies of the deceased hostages to be be returned to the country. We don't know the treatment these individuals, these people will actually need, but past reporting indicates just how extensive it could be, that some hostages may require immediate intensive care, reconstructive surgery, or even long-term rehab. Medical teams are on alert as well. Trauma units have been expanded. There are protocols for custody handovers already laid out. Hospitals across Israel are gearing up to handle complex and what could be very urgent care, from malnutrition to severe psychological trauma. At the same time, of course, we're talking about rebuilding Gaza. We have seen the video inside of Gaza of destroyed homes, businesses, lives, all destroyed by war. But the first mission is just getting people fed. The United Nations plans to ramp up humanitarian aid in Gaza for Palestinians during the first 60 days of ceasefire, scale up food aid across Gaza to reach around 2.1 million people, including 500,000 in need of nutritional support. That includes some 400 trucks from Egypt, apparently, that were on their way on Sunday, had to undergo Israeli inspection before being allowed into the Strip. The UN also has 170,000 metric tons of food, medicine, life support supplies already staged and ready to be delivered into Gaza. Now, the UN also wants to set up, they say, some sort of temporary schools for the nearly 700,000 Palestinian children so they can learn, while the hostages, of course, will be hopefully reunited soon with their families after nearly 2 years in captivity, living, of course, with these emotional, in some cases, physical scars that may never heal.
Yeah, all right, Angela, thank you so much. And President Trump also working hard to end the war between Russia and Ukraine with a strong warning to Russia this morning.
I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about Tomahawks. Do they want to have Tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I think I might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness. I told that to President Zelensky.
Are you saying that you will speak to Putin first about Tomahawks?
I might talk to him. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send him Tomahawks. I may say that.
Yesterday, President Trump did confirm he spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the possibility of providing Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles. This all comes after Russian missiles targeted Ukraine's power grid, causing widespread outages. First Lady Melania Trump also revealed she's had an open line of communication with Russian President Vladimir Putin to reunify Ukrainian children with their families. She's been privately working with Russian officials for months to help families that were separated during the war.
My representative has been working directly with President Putin's team to ensure the safe reunification of children with their families between Russia and Ukraine.
And after her letter to Putin in August, the First Lady revealed 8 children had been returned so far. More than 19,000 were deported or transported to Russia during the war.
7 minutes past the hour right now at the live desk. By the way, again, we will go back to Tel Aviv as soon as the president speaks, so stand by for that. Meantime, live look for you. We're talking about severe weather again, once again today. Ocean City, Maryland, a rainy start to the day, but take a look at the rough surf right there. All of that thanks to that nor'easter that continues to work its way to the north right now, up and down the East Coast. Thousands of people still dealing with this storm. And taking a look at some of the videos we're seeing this morning, this one from Avalon, New Jersey. Some of these streets were absolutely covered with water, flooding a big concern for some, not everyone. The storm ended up raining out the annual car show in that city. And that's a big deal. Usually attracts hundreds of visitors each year.
We came down for the car show, and we're not leaving to head back until tomorrow.
It was supposed to be today, but it ended yesterday because of the storm coming in.
And another live look over Ocean City. And we talk about the flooding in some areas, but the wind was a huge factor for so many. In Sea Isle City, New Jersey, take a look. Top speeds right there, 60 miles per hour. And these are gusts as the storm moved through. Maryland beaches saw about 50, down to Baltimore, 30 miles per hour. And in New York, JFK, LaGuardia, Boston, those airports saw lengthy delays and cancellations because the winds were just too high for those planes to take off. Going back now to President Trump taking the stage to speak about the history in the making right now. We'll take that live.
Mr. Speaker, esteemed members of the Knesset and cherished citizens of Israel, we gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. I want to express my gratitude to a man of exceptional courage and patriotism whose partnership did so much to make this momentous day possible. You know who I'm talking about. There's only one, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, please stand up. And he is not easy, I want to tell you. He's not the easiest guy to deal with, but that's what makes him great. That's what makes him great. Thank you very much, baby. Great job. And let me also convey my tremendous appreciation for all of the nations of the Arab and Muslim world that came together to press Hamas to set the hostages free and to send them home. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of help from a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect, and I want to thank them very much for that. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. And it's pretty unusual for you to see that, but it happened in this case. This was a very unusual point in time, a brilliant point in time. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East. It's going to work together. I'd like to thank several great American patriots for their invaluable help in getting something done that almost everyone thought was absolutely impossible. We were wasting our time. So many people said, you're just wasting your time. But we weren't, because we had talented people working with us, and we had people that loved your country, and frankly, people that loved the region. They loved the Middle East. I want to thank my friend Steve Witkoff. You know, Steve was chosen by me. He never did this before, but I knew him as a few things. He was a great businessman, but I know a lot of great businessmen, to be honest with you. He had tremendous negotiating skills, but I know a lot of people that negotiate pretty well, although it is an art. But there are people that can negotiate pretty well. But most importantly with Steve, he's just a great guy. Everybody loved him. Everybody. I mean, I know some negotiators that are so good, but you wouldn't have had peace in the Middle East. It would be in World War III right now with some of these guys. Everybody loves Steve, and they respect him, and they somehow can relate to him. I've known him for many years, and I've seen it over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה, החוצה, החוצה. להוציא גם את חבר הכנסת כסיף, להוציא את חבר הכנסת כסיף מהאולם, להוציא אותם מיד. Sorry for that, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Please.
That was very efficient. So back to Steve. He's but I tell one story because he was so involved, and then we called in Jared. We need that brain on occasion. We got to get Jared in here. We got to get a certain group of people. But Steve started this all by himself. I call him Henry Kissinger, who doesn't leak, okay? Henry is a big leaker. He leaked. Steve doesn't leak. Steve just wants to get the job done. He wants to do what's right. But I'll give you just a quick story because, as you know, he's working on the war with Russia and Ukraine, a war that would have never happened if I were president. A shame. 7,000 young soldiers a week are being killed. More than that this last week. It's a shame that it never happened. But it did happen, and we won the race, and I took over this horrible war that's been raging, and I thought it would be easily settled. I thought it was a hell of a lot easier than doing what we just did very successfully with Israel and a lot of other people. But this came first, and we'll get that one. But I set up a meeting for him to meet with President Putin, thinking it would be a 15 or a 20-minute meeting. Steve had no idea about Russia, had no idea about Putin too much, didn't know too much about politics, wasn't that interested. He was really good at real estate, but he had that quality that I was looking for, and I didn't see it around in too many ways. And I set up the meeting with Putin, and I called. I said, is Steve finished yet? That was about a half an hour into the meeting. No, sir, he's not. He's still inside. This is in Moscow. I said, well, how's he doing? I don't know, sir. He's still inside. I called up an hour later. Let me speak to Steve. Sir, he's still with Putin. He's with President Putin. I said, wow, that's a long meeting, 1 hour. I called up an hour later, he was still with Putin. 3 hours later, he was still with Putin. 4 hours later, he started to get the word that he was going to be coming out soon. And in 5 hours, he came out. I said, what the hell were you talking about for 5 hours? And he says, just a lot of interesting things. We're talking about a lot of interesting things, including what he went in there for, but you can't talk about it for 5. You can talk about it for a certain period of time, and you know what you're getting. But that's a talent. That's a talent where you can do that. Most people I'd send in, number one, they wouldn't be accepted. Number two, if they were, the meeting would last 5 minutes. And that's what happens with Steve. Everybody loves him. They love him on this side. They love him on the other side. And he really is. He's a great negotiator because he's a great guy. So thank you very much, Steve, very much. And let me also give a very special thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact, loves it so much that my daughter converted. My daughter converted. I didn't know this was going to happen. And Ivanka's here. And Bibi, you do know this was not in the cards for me. You understand that. And she is so happy, and they are so happy. At least I think they're happy. If they're not, we have a big story, right? No, they have a great marriage, and they get along great. They're best friends. They have a very special relationship. But Jared has been so helpful. He really did something very special. He established the Abraham Accords with a group of very wonderful people. I like calling it the Avraham Accords, because people that, right? And Avraham. It's so cool. It's so much sort of nicer, you know? The Abraham versus the Avraham. I just don't want to sound too sanctimonious when I do it, so, you know, I sort of split it up.
A very lighthearted President Trump there this morning with a few jokes as he's speaking with Israeli lawmakers on a historic day. It is 21 minutes past the hour this morning. Live coverage for you right now on the National News Desk. If you're just joining us, all 20 remaining living hostages have been released by Hamas. Those 20 driven to the border with Israel and handed over to the IDF just a few hours ago. We will continue to monitor this. We do have to hit a hard break here shortly. After this, the president heads to Egypt for a formal signing. UK's Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron will be on standby for that as well. We'll have more live coverage for you coming up in just a moment.
Breaking right now on the national news desk. America's News Now. 20 Israeli hostages almost home after being released as part of President Trump's landmark peace agreement in the Middle East. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching the national news desk, America's News Now. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is Monday, October 13th, and as we celebrate Columbus Day here in America, right now, President Trump is addressing the Israeli parliament after meeting with families of those hostages that were released overnight. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with the very latest on Trump's address. He is still currently speaking right now to those members. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Jan. We won't waste any time. All 20 living hostages back in Israel this morning after nearly 2 years. Let's listen in to the president speaking right now this morning.
Iran's top terrorists, including nuclear scientists and commanders, have been extinguished from this earth. And with Operation Midnight Hammer, boy, that's a great name for that, what we did. Last June, the United States military flew 7 of those beautiful B-2 bombers. They look so beautiful all of a sudden. They were always, I thought they were pretty planes. I had no idea they could do what they did. In fact, we just ordered 28 more of them. A little updated version. We ordered a whole pile of them. And almost 100 other planes went with them, including fighter jets. And we had 52 tankers, big, beautiful, brand new tankers that were loading them up 4 or 5 times. They've traveled 37 hours back and forth. Think of that. But we had tankers all over the sky for all the other planes. We had the F-22s, the F-35s, F-16s. We had a hell of a lot of planes. So we had 52 gas stations in the sky. That's what they call them. I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be flying one of them. We have our great General Raisin Cain right here. General, stand up. This guy, what a general. Thank you. I asked General Cain, I said, you know, we're having problems with ISIS, and I was in Washington, and I asked, how long would it take to defeat ISIS? And my Washington generals told me, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, sir. I said, I don't get it. We got the best equipment in the world. Why? So I flew to Iraq, and I met with a man named Cain. He said, what's your first name? He said, they call me Raisin, sir. I said, wait a minute, your name is Raisin Cain? I've been looking for you for a long time. You gotta be kidding. So they told me 3, 4, 5 years to defeat ISIS. And I sit down with him and I say, why is it? I flew there in the dark of night. I landed, I'll never forget it. It was quite a trip. I'm glad I made it because I met him. I said, could I ask you, General? I come down. He said, with another general and a sergeant. Everybody was like central casting. They could go into a movie right now. Between him and you guys over here, we could get rich making movies, okay? And they got along so great. That's the beautiful thing, that your military and our military, Bibi, got along so great. But what I was told by the television generals in Washington, we have the best equipment in the world. Why is it taking so long? And they said, 4 years. I said, so let me ask you, Raisin, how long would it take you to defeat ISIS? Sir, we can do it in 3 weeks, but you'll probably have some time left over. I said, you gotta be kidding. What the hell are you talking about? They said 4 years. I said, well, sir, look, it's not my place to say, but you're asking me the question. What you have to do is you hit him from the west, you hit him from the north, you hit him from the south, you hit him above, you hit him below. I said, so why didn't they do it? And he didn't want to speak badly of his superiors, which is hard to believe they were his superiors. Should have been the other way around a long time ago, because he's the one that did Operation Hammer. It was flawless. It was flawless. It was absolutely flawless. And I said, so you really think you can do it in 4 weeks? Yes, sir, 100%. You have to do it differently than they were doing it. They were using one base, and it was hundreds of miles away. And he says, we have all these portable bases all over the Middle East. And they didn't want to use them because they didn't want to offend the country where the portable... They wouldn't have even known what the hell the planes were going up, right? They wouldn't have known. But he said, no, they didn't want to defend anybody, offend anybody. And but we can do it in 4 weeks. I said, you sure about that? I'm going to call you back. I'll call you back on Monday. I'm going back to Washington. But you think 4 weeks? Yes, sir, I think we can do it in 4 weeks. We'll have time left over. So I call him on Monday. I said, you think you can do it? 4 weeks. I said, go ahead and do it. He did it. I'll tell you, he did it in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks. So, General, stand up, please. Again, this is a real general. This is not a television general. He doesn't want to go on television. He doesn't want to go on television. I said the other guys love being on television. So we dropped 14 bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally, as I said originally, obliterating them. And that's been confirmed, and everybody understands it. Together we stopped the #1 state sponsor of terror from obtaining the world's most dangerous weapons. And if you think about it, if we didn't do that, and assuming we made the same deal that we have today, there'd be a dark cloud over this deal. And #1, it wouldn't happen because the other Arab and Muslim nations really wouldn't feel comfortable making the deal that we have now, right? If Iran had that nuclear weapon that they were about 2 months away from having. They would have had it in 2 months or maybe less than that. They were right at, this was our last shot. They looked at it for 22 years. This was our last shot. The pilots told me that. They said, 22 years, sir. They looked at it. Our predecessors looked, they studied it. 3 times a year would do drills on that exact attack. And boy, did they get it right. But let's assume they didn't, and let's assume there was large-scale nuclear weapons in the hands of Iran. We couldn't be here today. Even if we signed the deal, which we couldn't do because a lot of people would not want to have anything to do with it, we took a big cloud off of the Middle East and off of Israel. And it was my honor to help. But it isn't it true, though, that can you imagine the same, let's assume, Bibi, the same documents, we had everything the same, but you had somebody out there that was, in the opinion of everybody, all-powerful in the Middle East. They took a big hit, didn't they? Didn't they take a big hit? Boy, oh boy. They got it from one side, from the other. And you know, it would be great if we could make a peace deal with them. And I think that's big. Would you be happy with that? Wouldn't it be nice, I think? Because I think they want to. I think they're tired. Somebody said, sir, they're starting their nuclear program again. I said, let me tell you something. They're not starting anything. They want to survive. The last thing they want to do is start digging holes again in mountains that just got blown up and start... They're not doing it. They want to survive, okay? But I think we have a chance. Steve, you, and I think Jared, come on, I'll call you back for another one. We always bring Jared when we want to get that deal closed. We bring Jared, but Steve, you and Jared and the General and Pete and Marco, you'll get that deal done easy. I think that'll be easy. But first we have to get Russia done. We got to get that one done. If you don't mind, Steve, let's focus on Russia first, all right? We'll get it done. In Lebanon, the dagger of Hezbollah, long aimed at Israel's throat, has been totally shattered. My administration is actively supporting the new president of Lebanon in his mission to permanently disarm Hezbollah's terror brigades. He's doing very well. And build a thriving state at peace with its neighbors. And you're very much in favor of that, I know. And it's good things are happening there, really good things. And with this week's ceasefire, we've achieved the most challenging breakthrough of them all, the most challenging breakthrough maybe ever. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I've been involved in a lot of success. I have never seen anything like what's going on today all over the world. People are dancing in the streets, not just in Israel. They're dancing in the streets of countries that would have never danced in the street about what's happening today. They're dancing in those streets. So this long and difficult war has now ended. You know, some people say 3,000 years, some people say 500 years, whatever it is. It's the granddaddy of them all. And in an unprecedented achievement, virtually the entire region has endorsed the plan that Gaza will be immediately demilitarized, that Hamas will be disarmed, and Israel's security will no longer be threatened in any way, shape, or form. So Israel, with our help, has won all that they can by force of arms. You've won. I mean, you've won. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. It's about time you were able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Mr. Opposition Leader. I said he's a very nice opposition leader. I think... No, he's a nice man. Bibi, he's a nice man. Good. He knows what he's doing, right? No, a very nice guy. Well, see, now you can be a little bit nicer, Bibi, because you're not at war anymore, Bibi. But only by embracing the opportunities of this moment can we achieve our goal of ensuring that the horrors of recent years will never happen again. You don't want to have to go through this again. 8 years ago, I came to this region on a very special first trip abroad as the President of the United States. I came here very early at your request. I addressed the leaders of the Arab and Muslim world gathered in Saudi Arabia and said that it was time to build a future free of the grip of extremism and terror. And interestingly, right now, as soon as I'm finished, I'm quite late. You've kept me quite late between opposition leaders and Bibi's brilliant but very long speech. I thought I was going to run up here, make a speech, and then head to Egypt. It didn't work out, though. And you made a pretty long one, too, sir. But I liked what you all said. It could be worse. Supposing on top of it, I didn't like what you said. That would be no good, Ron, would it? Ron, you did a great job, by the way, Ron. Yeah. So I'm going to be meeting, actually, in a little while, I'm going to be meeting with the most powerful, the richest nations, really, in the world, although now, with the tariffs, the United States is by far the richest nation in the world, as you probably have been reading. But the richest nations, most powerful nations, you know, tremendous, headed by some tremendous people in many cases. Some cases I wouldn't say necessarily I would endorse. But I will tell you, some incredible people that really helped us make this all possible. So I'll be going there. I'll be quite late. They might not be there by the time I get there. But we're going to give it a shot. But the journey we started back then led to the crushing defeat of the ISIS caliphate, to the monumental Abraham Accords, and ultimately to the historic ceasefire this week, in which many of those same nations really played a very pivotal role, I have to tell you. Steve will tell you that. Jared will tell you that. Together, we've shown that peace is not just a hope that we can dream about. It's a reality we can build upon day by day, person by person, and nation by nation. And because of that, the Middle East is finally ready to embrace its extraordinary potential. You have extraordinary potential in this region. It should now be clear to everyone throughout the region that decades of fomenting terrorism and extremism, jihadism and anti-Semitism have not worked. They haven't worked. They've been a disaster. They've just killed. They've killed. They've backfired completely and totally. They've just totally backfired. Everything that you thought, take it, worst case, it's turned out to be worse than that. They have not worked. From Gaza to Iran, those bitter hatreds have delivered nothing but misery, suffering, failure, and death. They've served not to weaken Israel, but to annihilate the very forces that did the most to foment this hatred. And it's really, I mean, everybody that's tried it has become irrelevant. Meanwhile, we've seen those nations that set aside their differences, reached across ancient divides, and pursued engagement are now among the most successful in the region. They're getting along with Israel, and they're doing great. And I can tell you the 4 nations that joined the Abraham Accords early on, and you'd all be doing me a favor, and I'm going to be saying this in a little while to some other friends, would love you all to, is this right, Jared? Join up in the Abraham Accords. We have to join up and get together. You can have that whole thing filled out. We had a very weak administration, worst president in the history of our country by far. And Barack Obama was not far behind, by the way. And they did nothing with this incredible document, the Abraham Accords, but now you can fill them up. Now you have peace, you have people that really like Israel, I'll tell you what, and they like Israel a lot more today than they did even 5 weeks ago. You've made a lot of, you've come back strong, because it was getting to be a little nasty out there in the world, and ultimately the world wins. You can't beat the world always. I would say to Bibi, it's now time, and he understood it better than anybody, because ultimately, you know, the world's a very big place. And I've said a lot. I said, this piece of land is very small. It's unbelievable what you've done with that tiny, you look at a map even of just, not the world, the Middle East, and you have this little dot. And think of what you've done. It's incredible. It's incredible. But the world is loving Israel again. And I said to Bibi, you know, the world is big and it's strong. And Ron, ultimately, the world wins. And we don't have to worry about that now. But there was getting to be a period of time over the last few months, you know, the world wanted peace and Israel wanted peace. Everybody did. Everybody did. And what a victory it's been, right? What a victory it's been. If you would have gone on for 3-4 more years, keep fighting, it was getting bad. It was getting heated. The timing of this is brilliant. And I said, Bibi, you're going to be remembered for this far more than if you kept this thing going, kill. It would be it would not be the same. And I just want to congratulate you for having the courage to say, that's it, we've won. And now let's enjoy our lives and let's rebuild Israel and make it stronger and bigger and better than it's ever been before. We're going to do that. Took a lot of guts. And the choice for Palestinians could not be more clear. This is their chance to turn forever from the path of terror and violence. It's been extreme, to exile the wicked forces of hate that are in their midst, and I think that's going to happen. I've met some people over the last couple of months that want to see it happen very much, and after tremendous pain and death and hardship, now is the time to concentrate on building their people up instead of trying to tear Israel down. We don't want that to happen again.
And you are watching live breaking news coverage right now from Israel, where the president continues to speak with Israeli lawmakers. The president there will then fly to Egypt, where the next phases of this peace deal will be signed between Israel and Hamas leadership. We do have some other news we want to share with you out of the Middle East this morning. Hearing reports only 4 of the 28 deceased bodies have been released under Trump's 20-point plan. All hostages, living and dead, were supposed to be returned back today, so we're tracking that as well. And with the release of those live hostages, prisoners being released back into Gaza this morning as well. Standing by for more breaking news here this morning. Updates throughout the morning on our website and thenationaldesk.com.
He worked so hard.
The National News Desk. Locally covered, nationally connected.
This is a very special event. They had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before.
We're on the cusp of true peace in the Middle East, really for the first time in my lifetime. Certainly, these 20 hostages are going to come home to their families.
Working with President Trump on this, his commitment to seeing peace, to seeing the hostages return home, to seeing Israel secure and safe, and to seeing the entire Middle East stable and thriving is unmatched.
I think he should get a lot of credit. I mean, this was his deal. He worked this out.
The war is over, okay? You understand that?
Breaking as we come on the air, celebrations erupting across Israel as freed hostages are now home. President Trump speaking to the Israeli parliament. He arrived there overnight to personally secure the groundbreaking peace deal that may have changed the course of history in the region for decades to come.
Now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over.
President speaking right there to members of the Israeli parliament at the Knesset. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is October 13th, Columbus Day here in America, and another historic moment around the world as President Trump delivers remarks to the Israeli government. Again, overnight, all 20 living Israeli hostages were released from Hamas captivity after more than 2 years. In fact, 737 days. Trump also met with families of those hostages, and Mark Boyle is covering the breaking developments at the live desk for us. Certainly a day filled with joy and hope there in the Middle East.
And of those 20 living hostages, Jan, their family members, some thought they would never make it out of captivity. And you get the chills when you see that video there in the Red Cross of that transfer back to Israel behind me. And we're showing you on your screen. These are the photographs newly released from the IDF this morning of the living hostages now back, and they are safe this morning. Right now, we continue to monitor live coverage. The president is still speaking. Let's go ahead and listen in as he speaks with Israeli leaders right now.
They kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got $60 billion in the bank, $60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the President of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in and would do. But they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to Israel. Miriam, stand up, please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say. We love you. Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great honor. Great honor. She's a wonderful woman. She is a great woman. I've always stood for the people of this community, and I always will. I'll always be with you. I'm always going to be with you. I guess maybe something could happen to change my mind. Somebody that's really stupid gets into office and wants to do really bad things, but that's about it. We don't think we're going to have that happen. I hope we're not going to have that happen. And this man is a good man right here. These two men are good men right here. Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. And cigars and champagne, who the hell cares about that? All right, enough controversy for the day, right? Actually, I don't think it's very controversial. So, you know, I mean, I see so popular. You are a very popular man. You know why? Because you know how to win. Over the past 2 years, I've met many of the families of the Israelis taken hostage and those that were taken hostage. Unbelievable. I've looked into their eyes. I've seen the worst nightmares of their suffering, but I've also seen something else, the beautiful love of the people, the love of people, frankly, that hold things together, the love that gives you the courage to carry on through thousands of years of persecution and repression and to emerge with the heart of David. It's the heart of David. It's that love that's defeated the enemies of civilization, built this incredible country and this unbelievable economy, and forged one of the great democracies of the world. That is why it's a true honor to stand here today and address this assembly in your ancient and eternal now capital, Jerusalem. I'm proud to have helped in that regard. This city and this nation stand as living proof that a much brighter future for this entire region is truly within our grasp. For thousands of years, Jerusalem has been a home to Christians, Jews, Muslims, and people of all ethnicities and creeds. This is the holy center of the world's three great Abrahamic faiths. I like that too. Adorned, it's the first time I've seen that word in a while. Adorned with their sacred sites and alive with their pilgrims and visitors from every corner of the globe. But here between the Western Wall, the Temple Mount, and the hill called Calvary, people of every faith and background live, work, pray, serve, and raise their families side by side, and they do it with love. This example is just one of the modern miracles that Israel has given to the world. And just in closing, the leaders in this chamber know better than anyone else the challenges of this harmony, and it's been easily won. No, it hasn't. It has not been. It's been so tough, but it has been, some say, a miracle. What you've done is a miracle. Look at your size. Look at your chances when it all started. And you know, if you think about it, you are safer today, stronger today, and more respected today than at any time in the history of Israel. Think of it. People used to say it wouldn't exist. They don't say that anymore, do they? Yet if safety, security, and coexistence can thrive here in the winding alleys and ancient paths of Jerusalem, then surely peace and respect can flourish among the nations of the broader Middle East. The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good, to seek peace and pursue it. So he still whispers truth into the hills and knolls and valleys of his magnificent creation, and he still writes hope into the hearts of his children all over the world. And that is why even after 3,000 years of pain and conflict, the people of Israel have never given up from the threats of Zionism, from all sorts of threats. You want the promise of Zion. You want the promise of success and hope and love and God. And the people of America have never lost faith in the promise of a great and blessed future for all of us. From the very first day that modern Israel was founded, we have stood together through thick and thin of setbacks, and through victory and defeat, through glory and heartache. We have built industries together. We have made discoveries together. We have confronted evil together, and we have waged war together. And perhaps most beautifully of all, we have made peace together. And this week, against all odds, we have done the impossible and brought our hostages home. So now we're going to forge a future that is worthy of our heritage. We're going to build a legacy that all the people of this region can be proud of. New bonds of friendship, cooperation, and commerce will join Tel Aviv to Dubai, Haifa to Beirut, Jerusalem to Damascus, and from Israel to Egypt, from Saudi Arabia to Qatar, from India to Pakistan, from Indonesia to Iraq, from Syria to Bahrain, Turkey to Jordan, the United Arab Emirates to Oman, and Armenia to Azerbaijan, another war that I just settled. We are going to have hope, harmony, opportunity, and happiness here in the spiritual and geographic center of the entire world. That's what you are. Israel, America, and all of the nations of the Middle East will soon be safer, stronger, greater, and more prosperous than ever before. And I want to thank you all once again for this exceptional honor. This has been truly an honor. It's seldom that a president is invited to do this. And I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger, and more loving than ever before. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the Middle East. Thank you, everybody. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And the President Donald Trump, wrapping up nearly a one-hour speech there in Israel to Israeli leaders this morning. And getting to this point certainly has not been easy. There's two sides to this story that we're watching here for you. This is the moment earlier today when about 2,000 prisoners were released, 2,000 prisoners from Palestine, then released, and they're now hearing also this morning there are reports only 4 of the 28 deceased bodies have been released because under President Trump's 20-point plan, all hostages living and dead are to be released under this deal. So that is something that we're standing by for and waiting for more information as well. And some more video coming out of Gaza this morning shows the moment those hostages were released right here in these Red Cross vehicles and driven through the crowded streets before reaching Israel to waiting families, many of whom never thought this day would be here. They were then handed over to Israeli military officials there and finally reunited with their families. Following their release, Israel delivered on its end in the deal, as we mentioned, releasing nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners connected to the terrorist attack back on October 7th, 2 years ago. Here's some of what President Trump had to say early this morning.
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
And you may have missed it this morning during the speech. There was a bit of a tense moment. An Israeli lawmaker kicked out of that speech. Take a look.
Over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה, החוצה. החוצה. להוציא גם את חבר הכנסת כסיף. להוציא את חבר הכנסת כסיף מהאולם. להוציא אותם מיד. Sorry for that, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Please.
That was very efficient.
And also new this hour, President Trump has urged in his speech, urging Israeli President Isaac Herzog to pardon Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on corruption charges. Up next this morning, the president is not done. He is set to fly to Egypt, where he'll take part in the next phase of this peace deal. That's where the signing will be for Israel and Hamas leadership there. And you can stay up to date on this breaking news as it continues. Still a busy day ahead for the president. On our website, anytime, thenationaldesk.com.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Israeli hospitals, meantime, are preparing to treat those freed hostages as the UN rushes aid into Gaza. The National News Desk's Angela Brown is looking into this massive effort. Good morning to you.
And good morning to you, Jen. Yeah, in Israel, the focus now turns to, of course, healing. Medical teams helping hostages return home broken but alive. In Gaza, yet aid convoys are now on standby, trying to restore some hope to families who have lost nearly everything. Now, the health ministry director says that Israel's entire health system has been mobilized to receive the 20 living hostages being freed, of course, from Gaza, as well as the bodies of the deceased hostages to be returned to the country. Now, we don't know what treatment is going to look like for these hostages, what they will need, but past reporting indicates that some hostages may require immediate intensive care, reconstructive surgery, or even long-term rehab. Medical teams are on alert. Trauma units expanded. They have expanded at this point, and protocols for custody handlers already laid out. Now, hospitals across Israel are gearing up to handle really complex and urgent care, from malnutrition to severe psychological trauma. At the same time, of course, is rebuilding in Gaza. We've all seen the video that you're looking at now of homes, buildings, communities, lives destroyed. But the first mission is just getting people fed. The United Nations plans to ramp up humanitarian aid in Gaza for Palestinians during the first 60 days of the ceasefire and scale up food aid across Gaza to reach 2.1 million people, including 500,000 in need of nutritional support. That includes some 400 trucks from Egypt that apparently on Sunday had to undergo Israeli inspection before being allowed into the Strip. The UN also has 170,000 metric tons of food, medicine, and life support supplies already staged and ready to deliver in Gaza. The UN is also apparently trying to set up some sort of temporary schools for nearly 700,000 Palestinian children so they can learn. While the hostages, of course, will be reunited with their families, begin this long road to recovery after nearly 2 years in captivity, living with emotional and in some cases probably physical scars that may never heal.
All right, Angela, thank you very much. We're also following another developing story this morning. President Trump working hard as well to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, with a strong warning to Russia this morning.
I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about tomahawks. Do they want to have tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I think I might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness. I told that to President Zelensky.
Are you saying that you will speak to Putin first about tomahawks?
I might talk to him. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send him tomahawks. I may say that.
Yesterday, President Trump confirmed he spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the possibility of providing Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles. This all comes after Russian missiles targeted Ukraine's power grid, causing widespread outages. First Lady Melania Trump also revealed she's had an open line of communication with Russian President Vladimir Putin to reunify Ukrainian children with their families. She's been privately working with Russian officials for months to help families that were separated during the war.
My representative has been working directly with President Putin's team to ensure the safe reunification of children with their families between Russia and Ukraine.
After her letter to Putin in August asking for the release of those children, the First Lady revealed 8 children had been returned so far. More than 19,000 were deported or transported to Russia during the war. Still ahead this morning, more breaking coverage of the Israeli hostages back home after being held for more than 700 days by Hamas terrorists. Right now, President Trump on the move, headed to Egypt for the next stop of his Middle East tour there. We're going to be back right after this. Breaking right now on the National News Desk, America's News Now. Dozens of Israeli hostages are almost home after being released as part of President Trump's landmark peace agreement in the Middle East. Right now, President Trump is there after meeting with their families and delivering a historic address to the Israeli government. This could change the tone, as we know, for the future of the Middle East.
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious.
Thank you for joining us. You're watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is Monday, October 13th, Columbus Day here in America. And at this hour, President Trump is getting ready to head to Egypt for the Middle East peace ceremony after delivering remarks to the Israeli government and meeting with the families of the freed hostages. Overnight, all 20 hostages that are believed to be alive were released after being held for more than 2 years in Hamas captivity. It's all part of President Trump's historic Middle East peace agreement that's expected to have really a massive impact on the region with wide-ranging implications, perhaps even peace talks with Iran. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with the very latest. You know, we just heard the president speak for over an hour, as well as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What an emotional day right now for everybody in the Middle East and around the world, Mark.
And think about, Jan, the stories of those 20 hostages and their family. Forget the political leaders in this moment. Think about those family members getting their loved ones back. Many thought they may never see them ever again. As for where things stand this morning, 31 minutes past the hour, the president just wrapping up his address to Israeli lawmakers. He is currently on the way back to the airport there in Tel Aviv for a flight then to Egypt, where he'll oversee the next phase of this peace deal with other world leaders. And we are monitoring here behind me that release. These are the photographs released from the IDF. These are the hostages who have been held in captivity for 2 years, rather. 2 years has gone by and much has changed. It's not been easy getting to this point. Earlier today, we have seen nearly 1,900 prisoners from Palestine being released, and we're hearing this morning only of 4 deceased bodies being released, and it was supposed to be all of them under that 20-point plan presented by the president. Living and all dead were supposed to be released, but it looks like those details still being figured out this morning, so we'll monitor for that as well. And video coming out of Gaza is showing the moment that this is it right here. This is the Red Cross when all of those hostages were taken back to the through the streets. They were driven around the crowds there in Gaza, out of the Gaza Strip area, and then finally reunited with their families. Here is part of what the president had to say just a short time ago.
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
And during that speech, there were a couple of moments that were tense. At least 2 Israeli lawmakers kicked out of the speech. Take a look.
Over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה, החוצה, החוצה. להוציא גם את חבר הכנסת כסיף, להוציא את חבר הכנסת כסיף מהאולם, להוציא אותם מיד. Sorry for that, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Please.
That was very efficient.
That was probably one of the lighter moments of the morning right there. The president making light of that situation as things were quickly brought under control, and the speech went on from there. Now live this morning, we have watched this momentous day here this morning at the National News Desk. History unfolding before our eyes, and that continues as we take a live look out in Tel Aviv right now. Air Force One standing by. You see the Israeli flags and the American flags right here, waiting for the president and his motorcade to arrive. They will fly to Egypt. That's where the next phase of this peace deal will be signed with Israeli and Hamas leadership. So everything is not 100% buttoned up just yet. It should be later this morning into the afternoon. The president is set to fly home early tomorrow. You can stay up to date throughout the morning and later this afternoon on our website. Breaking news continues at thenationaldesk.com.
Developing this morning, President Trump also trying to calm any fears of escalating trade tension with China after Beijing warned it would hit back if the U.S. moves forward with plans to put more tariffs on Chinese goods. Now, those tariffs are in response to reports China is placing export controls on rare earth minerals needed for critical technologies.
Clearly, the Chinese have realized that they have wildly overstepped the bounds of what's acceptable. I can tell you that we were not notified, and quickly, as soon as we found out from public sources, we reached out to the Chinese to have a phone call, and they deferred. However, in the past couple of days, I think it's become very clear to everybody that this power grab by the Chinese won't be tolerated. So I think some of this messaging has signaled that they understand that there's a serious issue here.
This comes as new data. In a post online, Trump wrote, "Don't worry about China. It will all be fine. Highly respected President Xi just had a bad moment. He doesn't want depression for his country, and neither do I." And it also comes as new data shows China's economy is struggling. Exports to the U.S. dropped for the 6th month in a row, down 27% last month compared to the year before. With all of President Trump's economic wins, though, the mainstream media is starting to change its tune after claiming Trump's tariffs would worsen inflation, crash the markets, and stunt economic growth. The Washington Post wrote, 6 months later, none of that happened. Inflation is lower than it has been for years. Supply chains are functioning smoothly. The economy is growing at a healthy clip, and the stock market is at record highs. The tariffs haven't just failed to destroy the economy, they've coincided with one of the strongest recoveries in living memory. It's time for economists to explain what went wrong with their forecasts. On Capitol Hill this morning, the Trump administration and Republican lawmakers are working to ensure service members get paid as the government shutdown hits day 13. The National News Desk's Christine Frizzau is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. Good morning to you, Christine. How's Trump planning to do this?
Yeah, well, in a post on Truth Social, Jan, over the weekend, President Trump wrote that he's using his authority as commander-in-chief to use all available funds to get our troops paid on October 15th. NBC News is reporting those funds will come from the Department of Defense Research and Development funding category. Vice President J.D. Vance also spoke about this yesterday.
A lot of this will come from incoming revenues to the Internal Revenue Service, tariff revenue, but also income tax revenue that is going to make it possible for us to pay our troops. And this is another reason why President Trump's decisive action on tariffs is one of the reasons why we have the money in the Treasury to actually be able to pay our troops.
Now, we should say, as we are on day 13, elsewhere around the country, the impact is really starting to be felt. Of course, here in Washington, all 19 Smithsonian museums and the zoo are now closed. Many farmers across the country are also struggling as they're unable to plan what to plant for next year's crops because they have no idea what government assistance they can rely upon. There are also medical services for veterans and Native Americans that have been paused as the shutdown carries on now for more than 2 weeks. I'm Christine Frizzau for the National News Desk.
Christine, thank you. 38 minutes past the hour, and coming up next here at the live desk this morning, 2 people dead in Texas after a plane crashes and bursts into flames. We'll show you the moment that happened. It was all caught on camera. Next. Welcome back this morning. Right now, caught on camera, 2 people dead after a crash in the Fort Worth, Texas area. We're going to show you the moment this happened. A warning, it is hard to watch, and the surveillance video shows the moment the plane went down. You can see the plane right there coming in on the corner of your screen. Wow, it just bursts into flames near that parking lot. It hit 2 semi-trucks, and then that flames, those flames you saw, then thick black smoke, which you're watching at from another vantage point right there. 2 people on board, they died there at the scene. It is unclear right now where that flight originated from or where the small plane was going. This morning, we do know the FAA and the NTSB both looking into the cause of the crash.
New this morning, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino has been chosen to lead the White House Presidential Personnel Office while continuing to serve in his current position. Scavino will replace Sergio Gore, the new U.S. ambassador to India. In a post online, President Trump wrote, Dan will be responsible for the selection and appointment of almost all positions in government, a very big and important position. Congratulations, Dan. You will do a fantastic job. This morning, New York Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani facing brutal backlash after accepting thousands of dollars in illegal foreign donations. Reports show his campaign received more than 170 contributions from addresses outside the U.S., amounting to more than $13,000. Republican mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa said it's very problematic, not just for Zohran Mamdani, but anybody who has these kinds of PACs, because it's a license to illegally funnel money. Foreign countries, no, you don't have to go to war against America. All you got to do is manipulate the election. Democrat candidate for Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones has taken a hit in recent polls, losing more and more support. This month alone, a new poll shows support for Jones has gone from 48.8% earlier this month to now 43.1% this week. Now comes after a texting scandal was exposed showing Jones disturbing messages to another lawmaker where he promoted political violence and death to the GOP State House Speaker at the time. Many lawmakers have called on Jones to drop out before next month's election, including Republican incumbent Attorney General Jason Miyares. Developing this morning, critics raising concerns about the mail-in ballots for California's redistricting proposal. Voters in California did notice holes in the front of their mail-in envelopes. Once the ballot is folded and placed in the envelope, those holes allow the vote inside to be visible, revealing if they voted for or against the redistricting measure. Well, this exposure does raise concerns the ballots could be trashed before they're counted if someone handling them along the way doesn't agree with the votes. If the measure passes, 5 California U.S. House seats could shift to be more favorable to Democrats in next year's midterm elections. The U.S. partnership with Qatar played a crucial role in getting the Gaza peace deal over the finish line. And in a show of appreciation, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced an agreement for Qatari Air Force pilots to train with American military personnel at a U.S. Air Force base in Idaho. National News Desk's Jeff Harris has more.
Over the last few months, the Trump administration and Qatar have worked to strengthen its alliance, with multiple deals being made. As that partnership grew, the U.S. then asked Qatar to help mediate the Gaza deal in exchange for security guarantees. On Friday, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announcing the U.S. will allow Qatar to build an Air Force facility at Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho, hosting Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots who will train alongside U.S. troops.
Pilots to enhance our combined training, increase lethality, interoperability. It's just another example of our partnership.
During the announcement, Hegseth also praising Qatar for playing a substantial role in the talks that led to the Gaza peace deal between Israel and Hamas.
What we believe will be a lasting peace in Gaza, and Qatar played a substantial role from the beginning, working with our folks to ensure that came about. So I want to thank you.
This new arrangement, just the latest in a series of actions strengthening the alliance between the two countries, including Qatar hosting the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East, plus President Trump's September executive order pledging to defend Qatar. Administration officials actively working to forge that alliance. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Envoy Jared Kushner, both working closely with Qatari and Israeli officials to mediate a peace deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanking them Thursday as they sat beside him.
We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Also, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who back in May went with the president to the Middle East, where Qatar finalized billions in economic agreements with the U.S., including $96 billion for Boeing jets and over $40 billion for defense systems.
We're going to help each other. The United States is in a very strong position militarily. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world.
Now, while no country has its own independent military bases in the United States, some foreign military are granted facilities to support their forces. Aside from Qatar, Singapore is also stationed at the same base in Idaho. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
After President Trump returns from the Middle East, he is set to present a major honor to Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk. The president will recognize Charlie with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in a ceremony at the White House tomorrow on what would have been Charlie's 32nd birthday. Many of his friends and family, including his widow Erica, plan to be there.
Coming up in just a moment, SpaceX set for another test flight on today. We'll talk about what's on the agenda on this major expedition when we come back. Back right now here at the live desk. It is 48 minutes past the hour here on a Monday morning and happening later today as long as the weather cooperates. SpaceX is set to send up the Starship rocket later tonight. That launch slated for 7:15 Eastern from Starbase site in South Texas. This is the 11th flight test of the Super Heavy booster, which is a reusable rocket. That launch will include a stress test of its heat shield and maneuvers on its final approach. Those are some key things they're looking for here with this launch. The Starship is the largest rocket system ever constructed. Now, in the past, parts of the Starship and the spaceship there have failed in 6 of 10 test flights so far. The hope is that the Starship rocket will be able to help NASA on future missions to the moon and hopefully one day to Mars. Jan?
More breaking news out of the Middle East this morning, where 20 Israeli hostages are now back home after President Trump brokered a historic peace deal to free them from years of Hamas captivity. Earlier this morning, we heard from President Trump as he addressed Israel's parliament at the Knesset. He was given the Medal of Honor, Israel's highest civilian honor.
We gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly.
No, I'm talking about, no.
Dawn of a new Middle East.
Ciara, what you are watching right now, live pictures behind me in Tel Aviv, Air Force One standing by. The president and his motorcade on the way there right now. The president is set to leave Israel any moment now as the release of the Israeli hostages are underway this morning. The president has a busy day ahead. He'll fly to Egypt to sign that peace deal later today with Hamas and Israeli leadership there with him as well. Live team coverage continues. You're watching the National News Desk. We're back right after this. I don't know. Right now at the live desk this morning, you are watching live pictures. We don't have control of this camera, but this is right outside the Tel Aviv airport right now, where we are standing by for the motorcade with the president to arrive at the airport and then head to Egypt. This is a very busy day for the president and Israeli leaders as we've watched the release of those hostages as part of this 20-step peace plan. So far today, releasing of the 20 living Israeli prisoners and the return of to Israel, the release of 1,900 Palestinians. So there's that give and take to get this deal done. The next phase of that agreed upon peace plan would involve Israel pulling out of Gaza in total and getting more aid and resources into Gaza as well. Now, we're also hearing from the president in that speech to Israeli leaders. Take a listen.
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious.
We'll have more coverage from Israel on the other side of this break right now. That is our time for this hour. I'll look at America's news and weather where you live right now.